I am not qualified to make an all-encompassing, truly exhaustive video about Brian Schroeder, aka Pushead. If you're unfamiliar, he's an artist whose career has spanned a number of decades, mediums, and disciplines. He is a giant in the skate, punk, metal, streetwear, and toy scenes, having worked with legends like Metallica, Misfits, and the Thrasher brand. However, in the midst of a prolific career in music and design, he fostered one of his most dedicated fan bases in the world of designer toys. So, we've established that I'm not qualified to talk about the Pushead library as a whole, but the other thing is, I'm barely qualified to talk about the Pushead library of toys. His portfolio is simply so gigantic, it's slightly overwhelming at times. He's a seminal figure in the modern revival of designer Sofubi toys, having worked with artists and brands like Medicom and Cause. But his most iconic line is arguably what he's produced in partnership with Secret Base. That includes the Skull Wing, produced for Astro Zombies, Pirate, Captain, Heavy, and all the iterations thereof. That's the most fun thing about a Pushead collection, the seemingly endless combinations of his Sofubi creations. You have the aforementioned character heads, but on top of that, you also have the pirate body, the orm body. You have different arms, like a hook, a bottle, a hand, and even some stumps. I myself am hoping to pick up a stumpy guy sometime soon. There's also the iconic Siamese arrangement, which is comprised of two pirate torsos stuck onto one another, creating a four-legged monstrosity. His design aesthetic is undeniably devilish, consisting mostly of skulls in various states of decomposition. There's also the trademark Pushead posture, most visible in the pirate and Coco Croc figures, which are contorted and bent in an arc that adds to the creepy vibes. The Pushead posture also presents a unique challenge in figuring out how to display these figures, but it's a challenge that all Pushead collectors come to relish. Because a fully realized Pushead collection, which I hope to have one day, is truly a thing of beauty. There are seemingly endless releases from over the years that fall all across the spectrum. Marbles, glow, double pours, mixed parts, and glitter abounding. And that's in addition to the different combinations of physical parts that I mentioned before. He's also released a lot of uncut kits throughout the years, so it's not uncommon to see a disembodied head sitting on the shelf of an OG Puss fan. And it's impossible to know, but that head may very well be the rarest thing in that case. On that note, I should touch on the Pushead market and culture in general. One of the most enjoyable and mystifying things about pursuing these toys is the expansiveness of the body of work. The man himself is highly enigmatic, with very little social media presence, but that's what makes it so cool. I was lucky enough to be able to attend the Hyperstoic 2019 event, which included works by Pushead and a number of other artists, and I had a blast. There's definitely a punk rock nature to how little information is given beforehand and even during the event, but that's just how it works. And the energy in the room was electric and contagious. I'd wager to bet that every single person walked out of that basement happy. I was lucky enough to walk past Brian on my way out, and I shook his hand and said thanks. And as you'd expect from someone with a career so enduring, he was totally polite and approachable. If you want to get into Pushead, I don't want you to think that it's actually that difficult. There's a pretty huge gulf in the market, with his hand-painted, one-of-a-kind figures on one end, and the recent blank production pieces on the other. These days, it's relatively easy to acquire new Pushead toys because they seem to be producing them in pretty huge numbers, which I appreciate. It's a model that's friendly to collectors and unfriendly to flippers. He's even recently released a series of vinyl artist Gashapon toys with Medicom, featuring micro versions of his Sour design. And of course, for the hardcore fans, there are always rarities and oddities that can be obtained from Hyperstoic events or the aftermarket. My advice is to hop on Instagram and just start scrolling the Pushead hashtag. But be warned, you may find yourself lusting after a very specific marbled, heavy, or skull wing that is over a decade old, and you may dedicate the next multiple years of your life to finding someone willing to part with it for a reasonable price. And if that happens to you, I welcome you to our ranks.